Liquid fertilizers has to grow, molasses, seaweed, all the commercial ones are meant to be diluted with water and sprayed onto the plant rather than drenched. A lot of it's wasted when you drench roots with liquid fertilizers. They're really formulated to go in through the tissue of the plant directly in, and it takes less, it's more efficient, it's easier, and you get more for your products. So that's one reason why you would want to have your own compost tea. The benefits of the tea, like I said, it goes on quick, it's fast. Instead of just straight compost, I read that it multiplies the microbes and the bacteria and the fungi that feed the soil and feed your plants by 1,000 times just by the aeration factor. When you make compost tea, you basically, a homeowner's tea, 5-gallon bucket, compost, air, thyme, you strain it, and the liquid that comes out of there with the microbes that are in there, the microbes that have grown, is put out in the landscape, and you get so much more benefit than if you were to straight put the granulated dirt type compost out there. For instance, Mr. Dooley's little owned Texas tea brewer. You got a 5-gallon bucket, you got a 30, and you can go online and he'll line list everything you need to create your own and exactly how to do it. But let me run down it real quick. You get a 30-gallon aquarium pump. You get what are called air stones, which actually create the bubbles inside along with the pump. A little bit of tubing. You get a paint strainer bag, and this is the bag that you would actually put your compost into to set it down into your water. Start with 2 pounds of compost. Pond water, if you can get it, because it's full of microbes. The microbes are there. A little bit of molasses, and a 5-gallon bucket of water and 2 pounds of compost will generate 4 gallons of tea. And it takes you 6 to 8 hours, and that 5-gallon will be sprayed out into a full acre. So you can see the benefits of 2 pounds of compost on an acre area. That's pretty good. And you can do it at home. Because you've aerated it, because you've cooked it, because you've multiplied the amount of microbes that are in there, you're going to get 1,000 times more benefit instead of just spreading it on the lawn. What am I missing? Somebody asked a question. What's your question? Compost tea can be sprayed on tomatoes. You said you have insects?
Yeah, I've got, they look like, I thought they were ladybugs at first, but they're these a little bit longer, different color, and they've destroyed my sunflowers.
At least you have sunflowers there.
Yeah. I have no idea what they are.
The secret to a garden is having lots of flowers. For one, you're increasing your beneficial insects.
And there's already bushes with some flowers on them.
Ladybugs, lacewings, trichogramma wasps, everything that'll come to your flower garden will then be in your vegetable garden to fight the bad guys off. So if you've got no nectar and no flowering plants around your garden, you're going to have less beneficials to help you fight those bad insects that are going to get on your tomatoes. But if you had incorporated compost into the root system, you'd have the healthiest roots that you could. Compost interacts with plant roots, creates a mycorrhizal fungi that lives in the base of the plant roots. And what they do, they live together. The mycorrhizal actually protects the plant roots from fungus and disease and pathogens. It takes carbohydrates a little bit from the plant that it's protecting, and in return it pulls in moisture and minerals from the surrounding area. So lots of compost, a compost-rich area, is going to have a lot of mycorrhizal fungi protecting those plants. Plants got deeper roots, they're healthier, they're more drought tolerant. That's the whole process of feeding the healthy soil life that then in turn feed your plants. So if you had incorporated compost into this area, not to say you wouldn't have problems with tomatoes, because tomatoes have worlds of problems, but you would have less problems, and a healthier plant means less insects. Insects go for the sick plants every time. And if you don't have a plant that's been fed or watered or fertilized, the insects are going to hop out immediately. So that compost, and actually compost tea sprayed onto the foliage and onto the leaves, actually act as a mild fungicide as well. So you're feeding the roots, keeping fungus at bay, and that's just tomatoes.
What about, you say food scraps, what about, is it only raw, or do you use some cooked food? And
I think any food scraps, any food scraps. I mean, they say don't put meat because it invites critters and other critters into your pile. But if your pile is hot enough, they say that any kind of manure and any kind of food scraps, the smaller they are, the better, the quicker they decompose and break down. That's another trick in a compost pile. If you have the time to shred up things finer, you're going to get compost quicker. You're going to get more heat. That'll take care of those food scraps and grease and other pathogens and stuff like that. Just don't put too much of one feed. They call them feedstock. Don't put one kind of ingredient, blend it with more than just this many leaves or this much grass or this many twigs. The air, the water, the microbes, the moisture, and then the variety of the organic materials. Am I doing any good? I usually have slides, but not tonight. Huh?
So we can imagine.
I'll hold up Malcolm. He's got his hand in a compost pile here. Malcolm wants to be buried in a compost pile, by the way. So
You have to use it in how long amount of time?
the quicker you use it, the more benefits you get from it. They say use it right away. If you're trying to condition soil and it's hard compacted soil, you use the less diluted the better. They say the concentration to use that's for general purpose for plants and for vegetables is compost tea that looks like tea. But the darker it is, the richer it is, and the more it's going to break down things like compacted soil. But they sell compost tea in bottles on the shelf, and I think there actually is expiration dates on them. I mean, the quicker you use them, the better off. And if you're going to make your own, as soon as you've made it, I mean, I'd use it that day. Because the longer you store it, the less of those microbes are going to be around. They're slowly going to fade.
What about compost itself?
Compost
Same
itself,
thing with just compost?
you can store compost for a long time. And be careful with compost that I buy everything in bulk. I don't buy anything in a bag from a box store. I don't buy mulch that way. I don't buy I buy fertilizer, but I don't buy compost or soils typically from a Home Depot or from a Lowe's. It's just, you never know how long they've been in those bags. I feel better about getting it in bulk whenever I can, because I know it just came off from the supplier to the dump yard, and you can buy bags. You don't have to buy a pickup load every time you go to. I go to Brooks right out here, okay, and they have blended soils, 4 or 5 mulches, a couple of soils. Now when you ask them about compost, they can't help you too much. So if I were going to go get good garden compost in the area, I would go to Gardenville, because these guys, they don't know what compost is. They say, I have turkey-based soil blends. It just means it has turkey litter as one of its ingredients for their soil blend. But it's not a good garden compost that you would get much benefit. It's good to grow flowers and vegetables and trees and shrubs in, but maybe not really, get your tomatoes growing good, unless you supplement it with other things in conjunction with. So.
Got a question, Bob. Well, actually, I got several questions, but first one is there anything that should not go into a compost?
Well, organic material.
Anything